Have you ever noticed how some public issues are widely acknowledged, officially documented, and yet still strangely difficult to follow? Issues that surface in headlines, receive government attention, and yet their full story, their procedural journey, seems to unfold in slow motion across countless fragmented reports and statements. Have you ever wondered how something can move through government, courts, or corporations for years, accumulating volumes of official paper, and still feel, to the general public, persistently unresolved in its practical execution? Today, we're going to slowly unpack one of the most publicly discussed processes in the United States, and yet one that remains procedurally difficult to trace. It's a story not about hidden secrets, but about the intricate layers of process, the relentless passage of time, and the deliberate, often uneven, ways institutions reveal and respond to information. We'll delve into a landscape of evolving terminology, detailed timelines, public hearings, legal filings, and the cautious language of regulatory acknowledgments, all of which contribute to a complex understanding that builds incrementally, rather than arriving in a single, definitive moment. Our focus today is on per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, a family of thousands of man-made chemicals often colloquially referred to as forever chemicals due to their remarkable persistence in the environment and in our bodies. The story of PFAS is a compelling illustration of how a widespread environmental and public health concern has moved through the intricate machinery of American institutional response over several decades. It's a narrative shaped by scientific discovery, corporate accountability, legislative mandates, and the painstaking development of regulatory frameworks. The journey of PFAS into broad public awareness began not through a single government decree, but through grassroots community concerns and persistent legal action. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, residents near manufacturing plants, particularly in regions like Parkersburg, West Virginia, started connecting unusual health issues to chemical releases into their drinking water. This local activism eventually spurred a landmark class action lawsuit against DuPont. The subsequent legal process involved the creation of what became known as the SATE Science Panel, established in 2005. Its role was to evaluate the scientific link between exposure to PFOA, one of the most common PFAS compounds, and various human diseases. The findings, progressively released between 2005 and 2012, provided critical epidemiological evidence, entering the public domain through detailed scientific reports and legal depositions. These documents became foundational, serving as the first widely accepted official acknowledgments of health impacts, though still within the specific context of a legal settlement rather than a broad regulatory pronouncement. In the wake of these early revelations, federal agencies began their own deliberate process of inquiry. The Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, first issued provisional health advisories for PFOA and PFOS, two key PFAS compounds, in 2009. These advisories were significant as the initial federal recognition of potential concern. However, procedurally, they were provisional, offering guidance rather than establishing enforceable standards. They were a signal, a cautious first step, underscoring the agency's recognition of emerging data but still distant from formal regulation. The procedural journey continued. By 2016, the EPA updated its health advisories for PFOA and PFOS, lowering the recommended safe limit to 70 parts per trillion combined. For communities grappling with contaminated water, these updated advisories offered a crucial, if still incremental, recognition of the problem. Yet procedurally, they remained advisories, not legally binding regulations. The path from a health advisory to a legally enforceable standard, requiring action from thousands of public water systems, is an arduous one, involving multiple layers of scientific review, economic impact assessments, public comment periods, and often legal challenges. Each such announcement, while providing a degree of public clarity on the issue, simultaneously illuminated the extensive and complex procedural steps that still lay ahead. Congressional engagement also became a recurring feature of the PFAS story. Over the years, numerous hearings have been held on Capitol Hill, featuring testimony from agency heads, industry representatives, and affected community members. These hearings have served as critical public forums, generating official transcripts and reports, documenting lawmakers' concerns, and shaping legislative proposals. Provisions related to PFAS have incrementally found their way into annual National Defense Authorization Acts, NDAA, mandating actions like phasing out certain PFAS uses by the Department of Defense or requiring specific reporting. These legislative acts represent institutional directives, but their implementation invariably requires further detailed agency action, often spanning years. The legal landscape surrounding PFAS also grew exponentially in complexity. Federal courts saw a proliferation of lawsuits filed by states, municipalities, and public water systems against PFAS manufacturers, seeking remediation costs and damages. This led to the establishment of a massive multi-district litigation, MDL, in the District of South Carolina, a procedural mechanism designed to consolidate similar lawsuits for pretrial proceedings. This centralization, while promoting efficiency, also created a single, extraordinarily complex legal ecosystem, where hundreds of parties navigated intricate discovery processes, expert testimonies, and settlement negotiations. When multi-billion-dollar settlements were announced in 2023 by major corporations like 3 Million, DuPont, Chemours, and Corteva, they were widely reported as significant victories, and in many ways, they represent a monumental financial accountability. Yet, procedurally, these announcements marked a new phase of complexity, not a resolution. The funds are not simply distributed. They typically flow into master settlement trusts, governed by intricate allocation formulas and managed over many years. Public water systems must then navigate these claims processes, demonstrating eligibility and calculating damages, often while simultaneously managing ongoing treatment and infrastructure upgrades. What appeared as a moment of financial resolution, in fact, inaugurated years of administrative and legal work to translate that sum into tangible remediation. Each headline of a grand settlement represented a starting gun for a new, protracted procedural race. Throughout this extensive timeline, the very terminology surrounding PFAS has evolved. Initial concerns often focused on PFOA and PFOS, but scientific understanding has expanded to encompass thousands of compounds within the broader PFAS family. This shifting scientific landscape means that regulatory frameworks and legal strategies are continually adapting. An enforceable standard established for one or two chemicals does not automatically cover the entire class, leading to a fragmented regulatory approach where each new compound or group of compounds requires its own careful assessment and procedural pathway. Meanwhile, state governments have frequently acted as laboratories for regulatory innovation, often moving ahead of federal action. Many states have established their own drinking water standards, testing requirements, or bans on specific PFAS uses, creating a patchwork of regulations across the country. This illustrates how the institutional response to PFAS is not a single, unified march forward, but rather a dynamic interplay between federal and state authorities, each navigating its own legal mandates and political pressures, further complicating the public's ability to trace a clear, consolidated path to resolution. The full procedural story of PFAS, then, remains a dynamic tableau. From initial community concerns and groundbreaking litigation, through evolving scientific understanding and the slow, deliberate machinery of federal regulation, to the complex architecture of multi-district litigation and settlement distribution, each step has brought us closer to a more comprehensive understanding and response. But each step has also revealed the vastness of the task and the intricate,